Hello, hello, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to Banner and Backbone. This is Anti-Fascist Book Club, episode 6, I believe that said, taking institutional responsibility. I am Nick Paro. I am joined today by two guests and friends, Tara Devlin and Kristofer
Hello.
Goldsmith. Welcome, both of you. How are you today?
So far, so good. Fair to
Doing great.
partly cloudy. I don't know. It's tough times out there. That's for sure.
Been busy, but good busy.
Good, good. I'm glad you guys are here with us. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
There's always a ton of shit going on,
Amen.
and I mean, they told us they were going to do it, which is throw everything at the wall and fucking see what sticks. And they're
Yep.
kind of throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Mhm.
And so today's show is a continuation of last week, which is we're working on reading through On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. And before we get into it, I do want to allow both Tara and Chris a couple moments to introduce themselves to everybody, so everyone in the audience knows who y'all are. It looks like we got a couple people watching on YouTube with us, and we're live streaming on Substack as always. So Tara, do you mind giving yourself
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, I'm Tara Devlin. I have a show, Tara Buster, on the Political Voices Network and on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C for channel/Tara Buster. It's also available as a podcast and all that. And I write on Substack and, generally try to make the world safe for democracy and with the work that I do. And I'm glad that you guys are here. So yeah, if you can subscribe to my Substack, that'd be great. And the YouTube, we're going to have it. We have a live show every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. on YouTube and the Political Voices Network. So, hang out and yeah. And there's going to be more shows actually. So just,
Awesome.
yeah.
So
That's
excited to see what's
Yeah, there'll be more, more to come. So thank you.
Good. And Chris, welcome again. It's good to see
Thank
you. Do you mind introducing yourself? You have a pretty important role in the Anti-Fascist Book Club itself. And we're super excited to have you with us to join in the book club discussions. So everyone, Kristofer Goldsmith.
Well, thank you. So for those who don't recognize me, my name is Chris Goldsmith, former United States Army Sergeant, founder of Task Force Butler Institute and Veterans Fighting Fascism. We launched these organizations years ago, so the context in which they exist has changed around us. Veterans Fighting Fascism, our major project right now is promoting the Anti-Fascist Book Club. And this actually started from a one-off TikTok video that I did back in November of last year. After the election, people were freaking out. They wanted to know, what do we do now that we are facing, a second term of Donald Trump with Project 2025 and everything that means. So I came up with a list of books that I felt were essential in helping people understand tyranny and how to fight against it. That video exploded. People started telling me they were starting their own book clubs based on the reading list that I made. And people kept coming back to me for instructions. So I wrote them. So anyone who wants to set up their own anti-fascist book club, if you're so inspired after joining us for this episode of the Banner and Backbone Anti-Fascist Book Club, the instruction manual is for free on veteransfightingfascism.org.
That's great.
Awesome. And we'll have links and everything up throughout the show, and ways you can find things. And so good to have you in with us, Chris.
Thank you. I do have to leave at, unfortunately, what time is it? 1 o'clock. I have to bounce. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. Next time, hopefully.
Sarah has an interview she's going to be doing, which is amazing. So,
well, on Hal Sparks' show, but I'll be promoting what we're doing here with Hal, and I'm sure he'll be happy to share that as well. So,
awesome.
Great.
And that's fantastic. We love promoting this message. like I said, Chris is the one who started all of this, and is a lot of the head of all of this, and he's been asking and begging for support for a long time. So people are finally listening, me included.
Yeah.
Which is I started, Melissa and I started this book club virtually, so that we could get the Banner and Backbone community involved. And we have over 100 people with us on Substack right now. We have 15 people on YouTube watching us. And this is going to be so far one of the largest shows we've had with the least amount of hosts here, which is fantastic because that means y'all are coming back.
Yeah.
And so I want to give Tara and Chris, both you, some time to give your thoughts. I'll lead with you, Tara, because I'm going to learn from last time when I didn't lead with Ellie. I'm going to lead with you this time, Tara. What are your thoughts on where? So last week we read through the prologue and about the first two chapters, and we discussed through about the first two chapters of Timothy Snyder's On Tyranny, which includes do not obey in advance and defend institutions. And where we ended was you sort of asked, like, what institution means the most to us and what are we doing to defend it, and how are we working to uphold those institutions. And Melissa Corrigan said that she is defending the judicial branch, and she is working to report and spread knowledge around the judicial branch and keep that alive, and keep through the power of media and investigative journalism. She's going to help push for transparency in the judiciary. And I said mine was, I'm going to help rebuild the media. Like, it fucking sucks. The media sucks in a lot of ways, and there's not a lot of good spaces for men that need to relearn how to be good men. And dads don't have a lot of spaces that are visible where you have positive parenting influences or role models for your kids. Like, I don't want to bash on YouTubers, but there are certain YouTubers that I do not want my children watching their videos for, but they're on YouTube Kids because I know they don't support good things, even though they do good things like build wells in Africa and promote other really good products, but they kind of suck otherwise. So I want to get your thoughts on ending chapter 2 because Tara, you didn't give your thoughts, and Chris, I'd love to hear your thoughts into it, on what institution are you most focused on trying to defend, and then how does that lead into the next chapters and concepts of the one-party state and taking responsibility for the face of the world.
Right. Well, I'm with you, really, Nick, about the institution that I feel is most important for me to protect is the media and communications. Human beings are storytellers. I have a master's degree in communications, but that I am of the belief, and I do believe there's some research to back it up, that we are in this divided country because of the media, because of the Telecommunications Act of 96 that's consolidated media into the hands of a few from over 50 companies owning our platforms to now only 5. And that's just unacceptable. As we saw with the Jimmy Kimmel thing, even when the people pushed back, there were a few cranky billionaires that said, we're not going to play Jimmy Kimmel in these parts of the world. And I mean, in parts of the country. And that in itself, just think about that. One guy is going to tell millions of people what they can or cannot access as far as media. And this is why, the American people are so divided, because Fox News makes people, there are studies that say Fox News makes their viewers less informed than people who watch no news at all. People aren't coming up with this on their own. And there's other studies that say that the more Trump lies, the more, of course, he affects people's opinions. They believe the lies. So, and they know this. And this is why every fascist authoritarian state begins with a takeover of the media. And it happened in Nazi Germany. One of the first things they did was they had a billionaire, well, I guess at the time it was a millionaire benefactor who bought a struggling newspaper, and that's how they started getting their poison out into the ecosystem. So, yes, that's what I really believe that. And in fact, Thomas Jefferson said that if he had to choose a government or or newspapers, if he had to pick, he would pick newspapers because because we need to communicate, we need to know what's going on. And like I said, human beings are storytellers, and that's what the fascists know. They have such a grasp on that. They just the message. They're very good at messaging because they have nothing else to offer. But they're divisive messaging, and I guess and they also very good at picking losers out of a society and giving them a lot of power. The losers that would never have power in a functioning society get a lot of power in a fascist society. So, but so that's what I'm defending. I believe that. I've been saying this for years. We got to get the media back. We have to. And that's why it's really important for people to go wherever we go, online, on mainstream media, but to hear the message of, the progressive solution that created the country to begin with. And I believe, built the middle class and will save this country again, I believe. So, and as far as the one party state, we've been dealing with this for years. The Republicans called it the unitary executive. For years, they've been talking about that. And I was screaming about it back, when George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were talking about it. Because what are you talking about? You're talking about the no checks and balances, and you're talking about a king. That's what a unitary executive is. I don't know. They just don't like democracy. That's the bottom line. They want every hindrance out of the way because they're not very effective people otherwise. They want to be able to rig the game and step on our necks without us having to the ability to do anything about it. So that's what I'm doing. Anyway, here's my cat. So
good. I think that's a great start.
Yes, and he has a cold, so he's sneezing.
Well, that happens too. Chris, what about you? What are your thoughts on here? What is the institution you're most focused in? And any response to what Tara had to say?
I'm a former lobbyist. I used to work for Vietnam Veterans of America. People hear the word lobbyist and they think it's like a dirty word, but you need people to defend institutions. And one of the institutions that I've been defending for as long as I've been, an activist is the Department of Veterans Affairs. It's where I get 100% of my healthcare and where I've gotten all of my healthcare since 2007. It is it has a benefits system that 9 million veterans around the country depend on.
This one included.
And in the last week, we've seen a great conflict between two institutions that I care about. One being the Washington Post and the other being the Department of Veterans Affairs. Last week, the Washington Post released a 2-part article, a deep dive investigative piece into fraud in the disability benefit system. And unfortunately, the Department of Veterans Affairs, run by the Trump administration, is not saying anything to the press when these stories are in the works, so they're not able to correct misinformation or contextualize malinformation or bad information. So what we saw last week was, I would guess hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of page views of readers getting the impression that veterans' disability benefits is like ripe with fraud. And that is a line of argument that is beneficial to the Trump administration, who wants to dismantle the VA. So I am working. One of the last things that I published on Substack was how the Trump administration baited the Washington Post into attacking its own Department of Veterans Affairs. This was malicious. And again, it's two institutions that I care about. I'm a paying subscriber to the Washington Post. Jeff Bezos sucks, but like I'm also an Amazon customer because I don't really have a choice, right? And one of the journalists who wrote that piece, Lisa Rain, is someone who I've worked with, as I have been a source for her on multiple stories. I understand, the pressures that mainstream journalists are facing, and I understand how hard it is to try to write about what's going on in the federal government when you can't trust the federal government or they're not saying anything at all. So, through subscribing to newspapers and Substacks, I am trying to support the people that I know are doing good work. And at the same time, I'm writing in my own Substack. I'm the host, one of the co-hosts of the Find Out podcast, where we're, getting the opportunity to interview politicians and talk about issues that are important, not just to veterans, but to people who care about democracy. So those are the two institutions that I'm focused on most. And it's a big part of the reason is not just because I care about them, because I recognize my talent. In my book club, Anti-Fascist Book Club series of videos, I talk about specialization and how, Tara, you mentioned you've got a degree in communications. Like this is your niche, right? And Nick, you're an English major, right?
No, I was a music theory and composition and computer science major.
There we go. So what people didn't see before the show launched was he walked this Neanderthal into how to live stream. So
I love putting together how-to guides and stuff and connecting people. What I found is I like connecting people, and I think that's why I like the media. But I like what you said is, both of you said, is it's more about multiple institutions that we can, because we can do two things at once and be really good at, say, 2 to 3 things. Don't overexert yourself past 3. Like 3 is pretty much your limit that you ever want to go to, and it's exhausting at 3 different things. So I would say I'm with you on the VA part, because I also get 100% of my healthcare through the VA. My family gets 100% of their healthcare through the VA, through the CHAMP VA, which is being attacked. And I don't know if they ended up pushing through the abortion ban, but I'm going to have to look into it, because that impacts dependence on the CHAMP VA system. And that's because I lost my job a couple months ago, and it's the only insurance that I can afford to get. And I'm lucky that I can get it, because it is free, because it's taxpayer funded. It's not actually free. Like it's
socialized medicine. It's
socialized medicine.
Yeah, when I was active, I was in the National Guard, but I don't get VA healthcare. But when I was active, I would partake in going to the VA when necessary, and it was great. I loved it. It was like, here's my card and thanks.
Yeah, I don't have to get
later.
a bill in the mail for my hospital benefits. Like, CHAMP VA doesn't cover all the costs, but it's better. It's a cost sharing program, and it means I only have to pay up to 25% of the authorized amount. And that's a huge benefit. And every American should have that.
Yes, exactly.
I have it, which means everybody else should have it too. Like, I feel lucky as a disabled veteran to get health care. Every American should feel normal to get health care and it not be tied to slavery, which is your job.
Right. You're not free if you have to stay in a job because you need the health care, or even sign up. Before the ACA, in fact, I remember reading stories I read a particular story about a guy who had to join the military to get his wife cancer treatments. So, that's not free. You're not free.
Or veterans who are on TRICARE getting married so that their spouses can have
That's
coverage
right.
because they do not exclude pre-existing conditions in
Yep.
TRICARE benefits for now anyway.
Right.
And it allows people who say have cancer to get onto healthcare
Yep.
insurance. And I will not out how I know this, but I know this,
Yeah.
not for me specifically, but I know this because it impacted my family in a way. And it's not fucking okay that they were forced to get married before or in a time in a way they didn't want to. They were going to get married anyway, but they got forced to get married so that they could have health care.
Right.
Like,
It's a disgrace.
That's also slavery. That's also oppression towards women.
Absolutely.
Or disabled people because we can't get fucking health care.
Well, it's oppression. Exactly. Well, Thomas Jefferson said that at the time, we weren't supposed to. We missed having not having a standing army by one vote, unfortunately. But and he wrote in one to I don't remember who, but that we have no standing army because we have no paupers to furnish the materials, and that always strikes me when I think about stories like you're saying, because people, and as people who served, that a lot of people join because they have no other options. They need whatever the benefits, they need the bonus, they need to go to school, they're trying to better themselves. They're not doing it for mom and apple pie particularly, but this is the problem. It's the country is set up so, and the way I look at it is that we have to have a country that everyone in, nobody out is the only American value, and that includes healthcare, because this is the patriotic thing to do. We don't leave anybody behind on the battlefield. We don't leave them behind on the battlefield of sickness, of ignorance, of poverty, of anything else. That's the message I think that we should be running with as Democrats and patriots. So, yeah. And the VA is the most popular healthcare system. The other thing, because I wrote something about the VA, and then I had some trolls, jumping on saying, "Oh, the VA sucks," and that's what you're saying. The Chris and Nick, that this is breaking through the lie about the VA, fraud in the VA, how everybody hates the VA. It's not true. It's absolutely not true.
It's how our Secretary of Defense built his entire career, was bashing the VA. And one of the, I think, first introductions that a lot of Americans had to Pete Hegseth was after he was named as Secretary of Defense nominee, was his interview with Sean Ryan, a Navy SEAL guy who started a podcast and became insanely popular, right? And one of the questions that he asked him was, "Have you gotten care at the VA?" And Hegseth's answer was no. Like, he's just been a paid critic of the VA, and he's never set foot in one.
Yeah, he's a coward.
It says everything about who Pete Hegseth is. Like, you can just pay him and he'll do anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm looking at the time. I'm sorry. I gotta run. It just seems to go by so fast. But I'll be back again another time. But thank you for having me for this short period of time.
Thank you so much for being with us, Tara.
All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Nice to meet you, Tara.
Nice to meet you too, Chris. I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right. And I hate that people who have never been to the VA talk about the VA like they've been there, and tell us who actually go there that like it sucks. Yet I've been there, and I've had some problems. I've had problems at the VA, but I've also had some really, 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 really good care. And I've had care that doesn't put me into debt. I have had care that is consistent over time. That is always I get my medications on time. I can order them easily. They show up at my door. I'm not charged for them because we're already funding them. Like, the propaganda around it is bullshit, and it's a prop. Like, I agree that to me, the two most important institutions outside of our, like the actual government itself, are the VA and the media, because
Mhm.
the VA represents social health care for the most diverse population in the world, or in the country. And the media is citizens telling the government to shut up, or what their limits are, or what the truth is. What do you
Yeah.
think about that, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, it is. I think about, for the last few years, I've had a lot of people asking me about like civil war, right? As we're reading these books about, fascism and anti-fascism, ultimately what these conflicts do result in the case of many countries, whether it's Germany or Italy or Russia, is war. So a lot of people have been asking me about that, and I think about what a civil war would look like in the United States. Uh, and people, might think like, what is my role in a civil war? Sounds fantastical. It's worth thinking about.
Mhm.
If the VA shut down, I wouldn't be doing shit. Like I depend on daily meds to keep me functioning. Um, if we ended up in a situation where the VA simply weren't there, and it wouldn't take a civil war to do that, but if the VA weren't there, I wouldn't be able to function. I wouldn't be able to work. I wouldn't be able to produce content. I wouldn't be able to write. I cannot function at all without the meds that I take on a daily basis. Um, and I think that too few people really understand that I'm not a unique case, that there are millions of other veterans whose lives are um, uh, tolerable, or even pleasant because of the VA. And
Yeah.
without it, we wouldn't survive. And I
Yeah.
mean that in the literal sense, right? So
Mhm.
that is, uh, defense of the VA is as much, for my sisters and brothers as it is for myself, because it is existential for so many of us.
Yeah. I think that's really important, is to hit home the fact that it's an existential thing. It is truly life or death for a lot of us. For two people on the screen, it would be dramatically bad if
Hmm.
the VA disappeared. I also depend on daily medications from the VA to function normally. I have fibromyalgia. I do not function well without my medication. And I have other conditions as well. Like the VA, just in itself, just protecting veterans, yes, it's selfish because it's my healthcare. I want it to stay there. But also, it's it shows that a system like this can work, and that is the proof that I have been like talking about this since I got out of the army in 2017,
Hmm.
that the VA is the blueprint for social health care in the US, and it is purposely being underfunded and mismanaged to show that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And a test case that we cannot have this institution. Um, I think that's bullshit and a lie.
Yeah. I mean, the VA has multiple missions that most Americans are unaware of. Like, yes, it takes care of benefits for veterans, so disability benefits. It runs the cemeteries, right? The National Cemetery Administration is part of the VA. So if you're a vet, you can get buried in veterans cemetery. These are things that like people think don't matter, but it does. And of course, there's the healthcare. But the VA is also the largest trainer of healthcare professionals in the United States, if not the world. Like, I am someone who has lived in New York for most of my life. Because I live in New York, when I go to the VA, I'm getting doctors and doctors to be, trainees, residents, who are at NYU, who are at Columbia Medical, right? Like some of the best who are at Mount, going to be working at Mount Sinai. Um, some of the best doctors in the world, or all of the best doctors in the world, come through VA's training. We got to see during the first Trump administration, the failure of one of VA's missions. VA is supposed to be the national backstop, the national healthcare system in times of pandemic and other natural disasters. And the first Trump administration failed to mobilize the VA in a timely manner, to take overflow during the initial waves of COVID, where hospitals were putting bodies into, connexes and freezer vans because they were overflowing and they didn't have room in their morgues. VA hospitals were more or less empty because Americans were not instructed to get care there, and the VA was not instructed to help backfill all of these civilian hospitals that could not handle a pandemic on their own.
I didn't know that. You just taught me something new today. Most people don't. That's so sad that people needlessly died because of that. Like, I lived in the Seattle area at the time. I lived south of Seattle during COVID. We were one of the first places hit. We shut down first. Our city was closed before anybody. Mm-hmm. I lived near the VA facility there, like not terribly far from the one outside of Joint Base Lewis McChord. It's one of the bigger facilities in the country and could have easily been used for thousands of patients and provided care teams to hundreds of different communities that were impacted that just never did. That is something that we need to figure out how to hold people accountable for in some way, because we can't keep allowing behavior like this to happen. And I don't know how that ends, but we can't keep allowing policy to kill people and then nobody gets and there's no accountability for when people die.
Yeah, I think that, and I talk about this on the Find Out podcast all the time. Like, the only policy platform that I want to see Democrats running on, and independents and Republicans who aren't MAGA for that matter, is one of accountability, of imposing legal costs on malicious, malignant, harmful behavior. Whether it's government officials or whether it's corporations or billionaires, taking away people's rights, taking away people's resources, and causing, physical and mental anguish that just simply shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So I don't think that our laws regarding that kind of justice are strong enough. Like, I do think that is going to be a fight in and of itself. But I think that is an attractive concept to a lot of Americans who don't necessarily, subscribe to any particular party. Like, justice is a core tenet of maintaining a healthy democracy, and that needs to be a real big focus for Americans moving forward.
So, thinking on a party portion of that and continuing it in managing institutions and taking institutional responsibility, and the one party state idea of our chapter 3, we have Congress right now with a uniparty control over the entire legislative branch. They have the executive branch and judicial branch. So we live in a uniparty state right now, with a lot of uniparty state governments as well, like supermajorities, either red or blue. But there's more red, I believe, Republican supermajorities than there are Democratic ones. How do you see us continuing to build on the movements and the efforts that we're doing now to push back against that uniparty system? And can we use tools like, I looked it up this morning, it takes 9 Republicans, just 9 Republicans could sign with Democrats to file a petition, a vote of no confidence on Mike Johnson and remove him as the Speaker of the House. 9. Takes 9 fucking Republicans in the House of Representatives to do that. That's an institution that is under uniparty control right now because the other party has just sort of given up on doing anything useful. What are some suggestions that you have on flipping that script so that we can get our parties to stop thinking just on party line and put country before party again?
Yeah. So on the Find Out podcast, maybe a month ago, we had Senator Coons on. He was our first senator from Delaware. And I asked him about this. And he was basically like, well, we can write some strongly worded letters. And that was his honest response. He was like, as the party out of control, there's really not much that we can do. And I think that that's an old way of thinking, and that assumes that our institutions are still intact and that our democratic norms will snap back like a rubber band that's been stretched too far. I think that it's more like the rubber band is stretching and it's going to break. So Democrats who are in office need to start being more creative, more aggressive, and willing to take personal risks up to and including making the Trump regime arrest them. I think back to like John Lewis, member of Congress, civil rights leader who used to lead efforts like occupying the floor of the House. And that would result in members of Congress having to physically be removed by the Republican majority. And that type of action, I think for some people can be like, oh, this is just performative, but it's really not. When a person, whether it's a member of Congress or just an activist going out for No King's Day tomorrow, when someone's willing to peacefully engage in civil disobedience in a way that results in them getting booked, getting arrested, getting detained by police, they're putting their bodies on the line. In some cases, they're putting their livelihoods on the line. And for people who don't have the same privileges that you and I do in terms of our physical presentation, they might be putting their lives on the line. I think that we need to, that Democrats in office, people who have more privilege than just about any American, I think that they need to start wielding that privilege like a weapon. And they need to start producing visuals that help Americans who are still sitting on the sidelines and not caring that much, help wake them up. If a Senator Booker, spoke for 25 hours straight a few months ago, and that got a lot of attention. Yeah, that was symbolic. That was performative. If he were to get arrested, someone with his platform, and members of Congress, members of the House have done this, but if Senator Booker were to get arrested trying to enter an ICE building, like that would mean a lot more to me, and I think that would gain a lot more attention and help focus people on the erosion of our democratic norms. And this is not simply just to send up road flares. It's to build a movement to fix these problems, and that starts with voting. Whether it's this November or next November, and in every primary in between.
So, to me, it feels like it's sort of giving up on the Democratic side when they say they don't really have any other power other than writing strongly worded letters. Like, it took 5 seconds of Googling to figure out how do you remove the Speaker of the House. Like, these people work there and they know these rules, and they know it only takes 9 Republicans to join them, yet they're still not doing it. Like, how how have we not had any sort of recall elections? Like, how are blue states not doing recall elections um, for their representatives and for their senators who are doing nothing? Like, state parties have the power to recall their state's representatives. Why aren't we? Why aren't blue states demanding that and getting people in who want to do shit?
Because it's a participatory democracy. People have to opt in to getting involved in Democratic Party politics, or party politics more broadly. We have seen the right, the extreme right, backed by billionaires for decades, doing things like putting up members of school boards for election, right? Or candidates for school boards for election. Like, we have seen a lot of resources backing those kinds of initiatives that have taken control of school boards, that have resulted in, the banning of books, the imposition of bigoted rules throughout schools. We have not seen the same kind of resources given to activists on the left. And that is, as someone who runs a couple nonprofits, who's been working in the nonprofit space for 20 years, that's one of my greatest frustrations. Is the right seems willing to recognize that the cost of business for them, and their business is lowering taxes, the cost of business means investing for years in activists to do the groundwork. On the left, it has been much more like fighting for utopian vision without being willing to build the utopian city. Like, they're just trying to will it into existence without doing the grunt work that it takes to build power, right?
Yeah.
And some of that, in the last 12 months has started to change. But now, the Trump White House is weaponizing the IRS and the DOJ to go after all of these progressive organizations, accusing them of being Antifa, which Trump now calls a terrorist organization, right? So,
and they filed their first Antifa-related charges in Texas on trumped-up charges, because that's what they are, is just trumped-up bullshit. And so, I think we got to be really careful about that stuff, but at the same time, not allow it to stop us from doing our constitutional duty. Do not obey in advance. Like, go back to the first lesson of On Tyrannies. Do not obey in advance. Whereas Olga Lautman says, just do not obey authoritarians, period, ever. Do not obey them. And I love that.
I say it on live streams and shows and podcasts all the time. Like, I am the CEO of 2 Antifa organizations. Pam Bondi, come fucking get me. Kash Patel, like, do it. Make me a fucking martyr. Come on.
Just see what happens.
Do it. Like, just do it. Just arrest me. Like, the sad truth is neither of my organizations are funded. So the IRS can come get me. They want to look for my books. There's 12 fucking entries.
Ain't nobody
going to overburden me to open my books.
Which really, as much as we laugh about it, it is really sad that you don't have support and don't have funding. Like, Mark Cuban, you're sitting there telling us you're a Democrat and you're a fucking billionaire and not doing anything. You're not funding anybody. Like, what are you really, a Democrat, or are you just a tech bro who's hiding as a Democrat, waiting so you can have your own little techno-fascist state? Because if you're a Democrat, fucking prove it. Like, start funding people. Do mutual aid stuff. Like, defend the institutions, but you're not.
Yep. Well, I think culturally, one of the problems with the left-wing philanthropic ecosystem is no one's willing to place a bet on something that's anything less than a guaranteed success. it is, they wait until an organization has somehow magically achieved, a staff of 30 with a multi-million-dollar budget, and then the big foundations will come in and say like, oh, okay, we'll give you a year's worth of runway, which is not long enough to fucking plan and actually accomplish anything.
No.
Without, let's use Pete Hegseth as an example. Pete Hegseth was a founder of Vets for Freedom, which is a rabidly pro-Iraq war group before it morphed into Concerned Veterans for America. That dude ran that organization into the ground like multiple times, and the Koch network, just the Koch brothers, these right-wing billionaires, kept just throwing money at him and investing in him and other right-wing activists. And now that guy's the Secretary of Defense, and all of the people that he came up with through Concerned Veterans for America, have had an opportunity to chisel apart the VA, which lowers, taxes for those billionaires. Which
I still don't understand how lowering the VA lowers their taxes, because the VA takes up like 0.01% of the fucking budget. Like it doesn't cost anything in reality to fund the VA for the American people.
The VA consideration. The VA is the second largest department behind only the Department of Defense. So,
is it?
Yeah. So it is a sizable chunk of everyone's taxes. But if our country is going to prioritize war and defense by making the Department of Defense the largest, both in terms of personnel and budgetarily, department, it is only natural that the VA falls in behind it. Now, we have seen over the last 10 months the decimation of all of the agencies and departments like the State Department that prevent us from needing the military to go solve problems at home or abroad. So we have watched a virtual guarantee of the Department of Defense needing to plus up even more in the future. Destabilizing. Donald Trump hasn't just destabilized the United States; he's destabilized the world, the global economy, and he has planted the seeds of conflict that are going to. And the Democrats and Joe Biden are certainly nowhere near perfect on this either. Like what happened in Israel and had been allowed to happen under Biden in Gaza for half his fucking presidency. Like those chickens are going to come home to roost for a generation or more, like in terms of hatred against the United States and potential terrorist movements, extremist movements, both at home and abroad.
Yeah. And with the only good news that I've seen in some of this lately is that Congress has decided that they are going to force a war powers, a vote on the War Powers Act to limit Donald Trump in his quest for plenary power, which means absolute control and absolute power as an authoritarian or dictator, for anybody who doesn't know in our audience. And we all know this term now because Stephen Miller let it slip on national TV. And he let it slip because he stopped and was like, oh shit. You saw that everybody could see the oh shit until CNN edited it out of their video, which I think it's something that I've been talking a little bit about. Is we see folks on the other side do this frivolously though. How do we hold them account civilly for doing something like that? Because ABC and CBS got fined for quote editing 60 Minutes, but we actually saw in real time CNN do that and manipulate the truth into something that it was completely not. Like, is that something we can do to hold up an institution like, say, the judiciary? Is civilians taking ownership and filing collective civil lawsuits and class action, or do we not even have the laws in place to handle this sort of corruption?
I am not too well versed on this, so let me couch my language a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw during the first Trump administration that the judiciary, or at least the Supreme Court, was unwilling to enforce what seemed like pretty clear language, like the emoluments clause, to stop Donald Trump from taking bribes from foreign countries. In this term, we're seeing Donald Trump accepting a $400 million airplane from Qatar, one of our military allies who are certainly, have their own problems. That is a monarchy. They have supported terrorist organizations, including Hamas. I don't think that there is, and most of the emoluments clause stuff was brought through civil suits. Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, CREW, was a major player during the first Trump administration. They were filing the suits and helping find plaintiffs, people who had been done harm by Trump's corruption. And none of, if not most of, those suits were just simply not successful. So what it is going to take is, what we were talking about before, people running for office on a platform of accountability, of making it much more clear in the law what is and what is not permissible. The ban on the use of federal resources for campaigning, that has been completely demolished. Right now, if you visit a lot of the .gov websites, there is explicitly partisan language talking about radical Democrats shutting down the government. Republicans are running the whole government. Democrats are the minority party, right? The Hatch Act, which is what bans the use of federal resources for campaigning, doesn't have any teeth. And that is not a permanent problem. That is a problem that can be solved through legislation. The Hatch Act should have clawback provisions that take from the individuals who violate the Hatch Act resources to repair the damage to our democracy. We as Americans are damaged every time that our taxpayer dollars, whether it's to pay for the White House grounds or a congressional office or anything else, that federal property that gets abused that way, we are owed, I think, an ability to be made whole. So I would hope that a future Congress would work as hard as they can to think creatively and see if they can pass laws in the future to claw back some of what's been stolen from us during this period of unbridled corruption.
I think that's a good way to do it, and it would have to return to the people and not just into the government where it disappears into the pockets of the same people again. Like, it has to be on the end of reparations, because these people are stealing our money and doing it very blatantly. Like J.D. Vance buying up farmland, or having a venture capital company that buys up farmland, and their policies are bankrupting farmers so that J.D. Vance can buy farmland. That should all be clawed back from J.D. Vance and from that company, because that is a clear Hatch Act violation. Or Kristi Noem using her position as the Secretary of Homeland Security to try and broadcast on every airport that this is somehow the Democrats' fault. That's a Hatch Act violation.
Yep.
She cannot use her position to do that, and it is detrimental. I absolutely agree. All right, we're right at the top of the half hour, and I actually have to go here in a couple moments. So, and I want to make sure that, Chris, we respect your time too. I like to try and keep these to about an hour each week. And I want to give you a chance here real quick, though, to promote yourself.
Thank you.
And wrap up the conversation, give your final stamp on it, and just promote yourself for where people can find you, how they can support your work. I put up a QR code in the top corner earlier in the show, just a little bit ago. It was for Veterans Fighting Fascism. Now it's for Task Force Butler. Please go take a look at the sites. There's great resources on them. That's where we get our information for the book club as well. And so, Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you to let everyone know where they can find and support you.
Well, thank you very much. And I haven't talked about this with Nick yet, so this is a surprise for him. Nick, I am working on an expansion of the reading list.
Oh, awesome.
Task Force Butler has a page called What is Fascism that we wrote years ago. We have included that, as one of the first reading assignments on the Anti-Fascist Book Club reading list. Well, now that Antifa is a terrorist organization, we are going to match that with a What is Antifa page and a list of books that explain what anti-fascism is, its history, the context in which it exists, and how you can safely be an American anti-fascist in a country where the president of the United States deems that to be a terrorist movement. So for everyone watching, keep your eyes on veteransfightingfascism.org. We will be updating the Anti-Fascist Book Club reading list as soon as we can. Again, I don't get paid for this. I'm doing it in my free time. So I'm not saying it's going to be soon, but I've done the bulk of the work. For folks who are interested in some of the media work that I do, I want to encourage you to follow the Find Out podcast, whether it's on Apple or Spotify or YouTube or Substack. That is a podcast that was founded by 5 white dudes who were part of White Dudes for Harris. And the purpose is basically to show that there is a healthy version of masculinity that Democrats can and should embrace. And we are trying to build a movement to make a place for people who haven't felt welcome in the Democratic Party. Now, I'm not a Democrat first. I'm an anti-fascist first. So I will soon be launching a new show following my Substack branding, On Offense, which is going to be all about accountability for these fascists, what we can do to make it difficult and expensive to be a fascist, as Task Force Butler has done with our reports that have resulted in lawsuits and convictions. We are going to be engaged in a fight collectively as Americans for accountability, potentially for decades. And that will include things like unmasking members of ICE who have violated people's civil rights. The FBI will not be able to do that on their own. It is going to be a civilian force in the same way that we've held accountable the January 6th insurrectionists. So with all that, if you want to support me, my name is Chris Goldsmith, Chris spelled K-R-I-S. That makes me very easy to find. And for those of you who tuned in, thanks so much. Nick, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. It's so good to have you. And I'm going to pull up a couple more QR codes here real quick on our screen so that we also, for anybody who was here before, make sure to also go follow Tara Devlin on Substack. And you can find her on YouTube. Her show is called Tara Buster. Her handle is Tara Buster. She's awesome. She's part of this pro-democracy community, this unapologetically pro-democracy, pro-constitutional community. It's becoming a very weird mix of progressive and now conservative ideals, because you have to conserve something to be conservative. And we're showing how that, or she's showing how that can really work. And from the sound of it, she's expanding too. So go support her work, free or paid. Help her grow on Substack too. She's pretty awesome. She's been on a lot of shows with us recently. Then also support my work. Really could use the support. I'm growing. My community is expanding really rapidly, and we're busting. We're going to be past 150 paid subs here soon. And every paid sub helps. Every free sub helps, and help us get closer to that first 1,000 mark, so we can we can start finding the next steps and get that colored in check mark. And then finally, support the network itself, Banner and Backbone. That's what helps put all this together. That's how we continue to grow and build the book club and other components, add in more permanent shows, get more sponsorship and branding, and be able to even eventually start doing advertisements with people and working more with folks like Chris and Task Force Butler and Veterans Fighting Fascism. And just on a personal note, Chris, if there's any way I can help with the new work, not only just here on Banner and Backbone, but elsewhere, I'm open to help. Glad to promote and support the work that you're doing, because you need it. We all need it. And I'll be in touch too. So
good.
For everyone,
now that you said that, I'm going to invite you as an editor on my Google Doc. So
Sweet.
Now you're committed.
Sweet. I said it. Everybody here heard it. All 296 people on Substack and the 24 of y'all who are still here with us on YouTube across our multiple channels. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Thank you for joining us on this Banner and Backbone's Anti-Fascist Book Club. I'm Nick Paro. This is Chris Goldsmith with me. We had Tara Devlin here earlier. Thank you so much for the support and work that you're doing, Chris. Thank you so much for the support and work that everyone's doing in the audience. Remember, go out tomorrow, weather permitting. If you are in a place where you might get a tornado, be very conscious of your weather, but go out and peacefully protest and show your strength, and show our strength in numbers, because we win this together. So thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone. Have a great Friday. And I'll see y'all again soon. We'll see y'all next week.